I believe it might be possible to have a tribe that has extraordinarily particular views on gender and on sexuality and on bodily autonomy, and another tribe that has, for the sake of brevity, very traditional ideas on what a man is, on what a woman is, and how children ought to be raised. And neither of those two tribes need to come into a conflict with one another as long as there are certain universally agreed principles around the autonomy and group authority of those particular tribes. Now, how do we map that onto soothing and solving the cultural war that you have found yourself continually at the forefront of?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, and I said this right when I opposed the initial Canadian legislation, it isn't I don't have an issue with a wide range of opinions, let's say, about how people should conduct themselves in their private and their creative lives. And I know that a plethora of alternatives is desirable, partly because the environment shifts and turns and you never know what's going to be useful. I also know that there are, in some sense, as many different so-called gender identities as there are individuals, although I think it's conceptualized in an extremely unsophisticated manner. And I put a lot of the responsibility for that at the feet of dim-witted academics, particularly on the radical left, because they just don't understand what they're talking about. So, people's temperament varies in 5 dimensions. And some of those temperamental dimensions are linked fairly tightly to, let's say, moderately tightly to biological sex. And so women tend to be more agreeable, and they tend to be higher in negative emotion. Those are the biggest 2 differences between men and women temperamentally. They also tend to be interested in people versus things. And so, and there's a powerful biological undercurrent to that. But by the same token, there's no shortage of men who have an average feminine temperament, and there's no shortage of women who have an average masculine temperament. It depends on where you put the cutoffs, obviously, but you could easily say that it's 10% on each side. Humans vary widely in their temperamental proclivity, and some of that's biological, genetic, even though it's not linked directly to sex, and some of it's a consequence of socialization. So you could say with some real truth that there are 7 billion different gender identities. But that doesn't mean that there's 7 billion different forms of sexual identity.